Hey everyone, Ashley here, aka Sparky, and welcome to my booktube channel! Sparky loves books! Yay! I'm really excited for this. This is the next phase of my book talking, book blogging life or journey. And I wanted to do this because I wanted to let you guys have a face that goes with the book blogger. And this is a just good way for me to actually talk to you and you can see me and it's great. I just want to give a shout out to a couple of people who really inspired me to do this. These are people who I follow already on Tumblr, and I saw that they do these videos like this, these booktubes, and they have their own channel. And I follow their blogs on Tumblr, and those people are Mary from Books and Cookies, Tilly from Tilly and Her Books, Annie from Travel the World with a Flask of Tea, Alex from Alex Book Pages, and Rebecca from The Book Hangover. I just want to say thanks for being such an inspiration for making videos and talking about books like this. If it weren't for you guys, I probably wouldn't have taken the jump to do this. So yeah. For my first video, I wanted to talk about some of my favorite books of all time, and it's quite a stack. It keeps falling over, and I have to keep moving it to a place where it doesn't fall over. So I'm going to try and keep it as succinct as possible for each book. I'm just going to spend a quick time saying what it is and really quickly tell you why I like it. So here we go. I hope you enjoy it. My first book I want to talk about is Red Rising by Pierce Brown, which I don't have a physical copy of, which is horrible considering that I work at a bookstore and manage it and I can get a copy of it whenever I want. But no, I don't do that because I'm weird. This book is a wonderful book. It is cool and fast-paced, yet somehow deep at the same time. It explores a lot of interactions with people under different circumstances, questionable circumstances. It questions morality. I love it so much I made my husband read it on audiobook because I wanted it so badly to talk to somebody about it. I made him read it and he really loved it too. Red Rising is about this guy, Dyer, who lives on Mars with the rest of society. We have colonized Mars and made it livable, and our society on there is structured by color. All people are organized by color and given a color ranking, and Darrow is a red, which is the lowest. Something happens and he decides that he wants to overthrow the government, basically, which is ruled by the golds and the silvers, which is the highest rank. And it is really cool. There's a map in it, which you don't actually need until you get to the games part of it. And it's really actually helpful once you do get to that part. But it's fantastic. The writing in it is brilliant. It's so interesting. The way that Pierce Brown, the author, does this thing where he won't tell you everything that happens. And Darrow knows more than you do at times. And you're just sitting there thinking, oh my god, he did this thing. I didn't even know he had the tools to do this thing. Oh my god, he did that. Just so cool, and it leaves you with lots of surprises that you don't even see coming, and it's actually kind of brutal at times, but really deep, and I could go on and on about it. So everybody should read this book. If you want to talk about it, please talk about it with me because there's so much to talk about. The next book I'm going to talk about is The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer, which is kind of a weird one to have as a favorite, I realize, but this book I read in college. I was an English major and I had just sort of started being an English major, and I had to read this for school, and this is the book that made me want to study Middle English specifically. I'm not quite sure how to describe this book though. It is written in the 1500s, again by Geoffrey Chaucer. It is a bunch of people all show up from different walks of life. There's a miller, a cook, a prostitute, a knight. All these different types of people get together and kind of tell the story of their life, and they all have some kind of deep, dark, hidden secret. Like the cook puts human pieces human body pieces in his food sometimes, so you kind of find that out when you read his story. But I love, and I have like 4 copies of this book, and I only ever buy it if it's in actual Middle English, which you probably can't see from there, but Middle English isn't like regular English. It kind of sounds almost Gaelic, and I will only buy it if it's like that, because that's the original version of the language, and I love annotating it. I love being an absolute English major nerd about this book and analyzing it, so I owe a lot to this book. That's why it's in my favorites. If you have read it or studied it, let me know so we can nerd out about it together. So yeah, that's that one. My next favorite is by Gayle Forman, and I don't have the actual book because my mom is reading it right now because I insisted she read it, because it's one of my absolute favorites of all time, and it's If I Stay, which I don't have a physical copy of, but I do have Where She Went Here, which is the companion book to it from Adam's point of view, and the first one is about Mia Hall, and she is this girl who's 17. She plays the cello. She has a really awesome family who work very well together. They're a wonderful family, one of my favorite book families. It's a beautiful book. When I finished it, I didn't think I would ever read anything as good as that book, and I pretty much was right, because nothing has really topped If I Stay yet. And the way that Mia remembers things about her past is similar to the way we remember things in the past in real life, because you're walking along and you see this fence post or something that reminds you of a fence post from when you were 5, and then you kind of flash back into your own mind about that 5-year-old memory. And that's kind of how Mia Hall does it too. She sees something and it reminds her of something in her past, and that's how we learn about her. She's an incredibly real life character. I wish she was real in real life. She just is so multi-dimensional. I feel like I can reach out and touch her and be her best friend, and it's just great. This is way up there in my favorites for me. Since I'm already talking about her, I will go on to my next favorite, which is of Gayle Forman also, Just One Day. This is a story about Allie, who is on a school trip to Europe, and while she's there, it's the last day of the trip, she runs into Willem, who is a Shakespeare actor. He says, hey, spend your 1 extra day here with me and go to Paris with me. We'll go see Paris together. And she does. So all her trip people, all the other students on the trip leave and go, but she stays an extra day with Willem and spends it in Paris. And it's an incredible one day that changes her life, makes her think about what she really wants out of life, what she loves, what she actually enjoys spending her time doing. And she spends the next year after it on this journey of self-discovery that is just amazing. I love it. It was an important book for me because it was kind of life-changing for me, because it made me want to spend my time doing things I like too. It was really inspirational for me to do that. It's kind of like a better Eat, Pray, Love, and an Eat, Pray, Love for young adults at that. And it was just very inspirational, and I finished this book and I started crying because I loved it so much. It was so beautiful, and I thought that nothing's ever going to top this, and I immediately emailed Gayle Forman and thanked her for writing this book, because it just hit me so hard, and I absolutely adore this book. My next favorite is a classic, and it is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I actually have a tattoo for this book on my ankle, way down there. It is the quote, "If you delete the adjectives from people's sentences, you will have the truth," which is a simple thing to do, but it is absolutely 100% true. So instead of saying the tall, hot, blonde girl, you just say the girl, and then you have the truth. And that's how you should go about living your life, instead of adding these adjectives that are unnecessary. And I just believe in that. So that's one of my favorite quotes of all time, actually, and it comes from this book. Atticus Finch says it, who is Scout, the main character's father, and he is one of the most admirable characters in literature, I think. He's one of the most quotable characters in literature also. I'm not going to spend too much time on this book because I know a lot of people have to read it for school. Really excited for the sequel, which comes out next month, Ghost Set of Watchmen. Harper Lee wrote it shortly after she wrote To Kill a Mockingbird, but she's a very self-conscious author, so she never published it because she never thought it was good enough. But her sister just recently died, so she's publishing it in honor of her sister, and I'm really excited for it. My store is having a midnight release party for it with trivia and quizzes and facts and Southern themed food, and yeah, it's just a really wonderful novel. I'm sure a lot of you have read it, and I have a lot of things to say about it because there's a lot in there. There's a lot of between the lines stuff, so it's a great, wonderful read. My next favorite book is the Unbecoming of Mara Dyer series, which I just grabbed the last book in the series off the shelf, The Retribution of Mara Dyer. This is a really just cool book. It's cool, it's creepy. I've never read anything like this book. It has both an element of real life stuff, real relationships, real people, but at the same time there's a lot of supernatural going on. It's about this girl, Mara Dyer, who, that's actually not even her real name, which you forget because it's one of the first things mentioned, and then you go through the whole books and then you're like, oh crap, her name isn't even Mara, really. And something really bad happens. She makes something really bad happen because she has this supernatural ability to, when she wants something bad to happen to somebody, she visions it, and it eventually does actually happen to that person. It comes to fruition. And she does something, and it's horrible, and her whole family move to Florida, and she's having a lot of struggles getting through what happened and coping with the fact that it's her fault. She tries to tell people that it's her fault, tell people she has this ability, but nobody believes her. Not even her family really believes her, even though they're an awesome family. They are very supportive. It's one of my favorite elements of the story is her and her siblings and her parents who are just so giving to her. And even though she is going through something really weird and really awful, they are really great to her, I think, especially her older brother. A lot of people will tell you to read this book for the romance between Noah Shaw and Mara Dyer. I don't think you should read it for that reason. I am not so much a fan of Noah and Mara because there's a lot of insta-love in it, and there are other really great reasons to read this book. Like I said, it's creepy and it goes places. There's a lot of things that happen to Mara. Very unique book, a very unique plot. I love all of the characters in it individually. I think they're a great supporting cast for Mara, and I just adore this book. It's a very fast read too. Like if you read it, you're just gonna find yourself just turning pages like really fast and not even realizing that you're done with the book already. I read all 3 of the books, I think, in 3 days. So it's a great read. It's worth picking up. You're not gonna read anything like it, I don't think. My next favorite has a lot of personal meaning to me. It is the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants series. This book, this series came to me in middle school at a time when I was going through a lot of really rough, kind of really awful personal stuff, and I picked these books up, and not only did they distract me from real life, but the characters themselves spoke to me, and I became attached to them and their journeys, and I feel like I know them almost, all these characters, and I know their journey, and it feels like it was real. And I know you guys won't judge me for that because you also are bookworms. But the Sister of the Traveling Pants series, specifically the second book too, because in the second book, Bridget is in a really low place and she has to go find herself again, and she does it via this physical transformation, like running and playing soccer again. And I just find that a really inspirational thing to go and try and find yourself when you're really deep down in the dirt, you know. And yeah, so all of these books. I really love Bridget also, or not Bridget, Carmen also, because she's a lot like me. She loves writing, she loves reading, she loves learning. She's Latina, and she's a bigger girl, and she has a single mom and a terrible step-family. Well, not terrible, but a step-family who's very distant from her, who she can't relate to and is surprised by, basically. They were kind of a secret. They were a surprise for her. So there's lots of reasons why I relate to Carmen, and I think that might be the main reason why I love these books. But I love all 4 of them, Leah, Bridget, Carmen, and Tibby, and I think every girl should read this book when they're in middle school or in like 9th grade, the beginning of high school, because it's just a cute, sweet, wonderful story. You should all give it a try. My next favorite is my most recently read book. I just read it in January, and it is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This is an exquisite book. Everything about it is beautiful. The cover, the inside, the story itself, just the individual sentences themselves are beautiful. It's very circular, the way things come back to each other and wrap around each other, and the theme of the circus arrives without warning. Like, you hear that sentence multiple times throughout the book, and it's just very beautiful the way it all locks with each other. This is me making things interlock. It's just beautiful. It's about Celia and Marco, who are both magicians in training. One of them is trained in a hands-on learning way, and then the other one is trained in a book learning way. They create the circus to showcase each other's magic and have like a magic duel with each other, but they fall in love with each other's magic first, and it's beautiful the way they do that. There's another storyline also with a boy who loves the circus, and he loves it so much that he wants to make it his life, and it's just, it goes from that storyline, his storyline, to Celia and Marco's storyline in a really cool way. The way they all tie together is really beautiful, and it's just beautiful. I read it and immediately wanted to reread it again because I was sure there's stuff that I missed in it, but it's just the timing of it is beautiful, and the characters themselves are beautiful, and their relationship is beautiful, and I'm saying the word beautiful 700 times. I just can't think of another word besides beautiful. Read it and know that you'll love it. I did, and it is just one of the most well-written things I've ever read. The next book I'm going to talk about is The Host by Stephanie Meyer, which I only have an e-book copy of. I don't have a physical copy of, but nevertheless, it's still one of my favorites. It's a very big book, and I think that is daunting for people, and that's why they don't give it a shot. And also, I think maybe because it has some stigma on it because it's written by Stephanie Meyer, who wrote the Twilight series. But don't judge this book by the Twilight series. It's very different. It's a better book, in my opinion, than Twilight. Has better characters with better dialogue and not cringeworthy like Twilight is. It's about Wanda, short for the Wanderer, who is an alien. Her race, her aliens, take over Earth by living inside humans' bodies, and they take over Earth and they kind of make it better. Like, they stop war and hunger and all these other bad things that are on Earth. Even though she's a very gentle creature, she's a gentle alien, they still have these prejudices about her because her race has taken over Earth. It's a wonderful book. It's so good. It is very intricate and very descriptive. There's a lot. She doesn't leave anything out, and you really, really get to know Wanda and Melody really in depth. You know everything about them, you feel like, by the time it's done. They're very expressive characters, and Ian, O'Shea, and Wanda are probably my favorite book couple of all time, except for Percy and Annabeth. They are a beautiful couple who come together in a really great way. They have a lot of good development. It's not insta-love, which is finally, thank the heavens we don't have insta-love. This is not like that. It's also get through the first fourth of the book, because I think a lot of people get through a fourth of it and then give up because it takes so long to get anywhere. But get through that. You're gonna love it. I'm thinking about doing a host read-along on Tumblr/Twitter probably in late July, early August. Let me know here on YouTube or on Tumblr. Message me, Sparky Loves Books on Tumblr. Let me know if that'd be something you'd be interested in, and I'm going to cut it there because I've talked a lot about it. One of my next favorites is the Giver series. Look at this cover of the Giver. This is the 4-in-1 volume edition, which is so beautiful on the cover. It has red spine on it, red spine pages, and the little tabby bookmark thingy. I have 5 different copies of the series because I love it so much. It is a wonderful series. You have to read all 4 because the places it goes, you won't understand the connection to everything until you read all 4, and then you're like, bah! It's just crazy. I've never read anything that that connects things in such an interesting way. The story and the characters, what? Whoa. So the first book is about Jonas, who lives in this very structured, seemingly utopian society that gives out roles, specific jobs, and they give you, when you turn a certain birthday, they give you very specific gifts. You are matched with your most appropriate parents and kids and spouse. Jonas's job that he finds out that he's going to do is going to be a receiver. Maybe the way that his society is living in isn't so great. And it's a great book. It's really cool. It's really short. You will read it in a day, I guarantee you. Again, my husband even read these books. I made him read them all so that I could gush about them with somebody because I was dying to talk to somebody about them. So they're really wonderful. They won they're a 2-time Newbery Award winner, which tells you something, I think. So give them a try. A lot of people have only read the first one because they're confused by what the second one is about. Just get to the fourth book, and you will figure everything out. So, have fun reading it. My next favorite is another kind of strange favorite, maybe not so much. It's the Iliad by Homer. This is a classic. I owe a lot to this book also. It made me discover my second major in college, which was ancient Greek classical studies. I read this book for a class in an analytical manner and decided that I wanted to keep analyzing ancient Greek writing and philosophy and everything, and so I did, and that is because of this book. It's a really cool book. If you've read it analytically or not analytically, let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it and to talk about all these wonderful themes that are in this book. So yeah, this is a huge book for my life. The next book I'm going to talk about is First Grave on the Right, which is the first book of the Charlie Davidson series by Dorinda Jones. I don't have a physical copy of this. I have all these books in e-reader format, and they are unlike any of the other books in this pile. This is a sexy paranormal romance book about Charlie Davidson, who is one of my favorite characters that I've ever read. She just pops out of the pages. She's super witty and sexy and curvy, and I wish she was my best friend in real life, and I wish I had the one-liners she has and the sarcasm she has, and she's just so cool. Like, she names her furniture. She's the Grim Reaper, and she's been the Grim Reaper since she was born, and since she was born she's also had this presence in her life that she hasn't been able to identify. It's this really hot and steamy guy named Reyes, a demon. Like, literally. He's the son of Satan. Supposed to be her mortal enemy, but while he's watching her grow up, he falls in love with her. There's just so much chemistry, pew, 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 and fireworks, and sexiness, and smut, and it's just, I love it. It's so smutty. I don't even care, but if you're in the mood for something a little bit different than young adult, or, you know, what you normally read, try this series. Like I said, lots of sexy times in it, but it is so funny. I love Charlie Davidson. She's so great. Finally, the last book I'm going to talk about, but certainly not the least. Certainly. Like, this is on the top of my list, probably. I saved the best for last. The Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan, as well as the Heroes of Olympus series too. They all go together, so I feel like I can't really talk about one without talking about the other, or at least mentioning the other. But I have this weird, like, it's a series of 5, but I have a box set of only the first 3 with me right here. This is a wonderful book. It has Greek mythology incorporated into it, which obviously I love. I mean, I love the Iliad and I study Greek mythology, so a fictional young adult book that involves Greek mythology, oh my god. Ever since I read these books, I've been on a massive hunt for other Greek mythology fiction young adult books. I found some, as well as some adult fiction fantasy books that have Greek mythology in them. I made a post about them on my blog on Tumblr. If you're interested in finding that post, message me on Tumblr. Again, Sparky Loves Books. I will show that to you if you are a Greek mythology fan like I am. This is The Lightning Thief. It's about Percy Jackson, he's 12 in the beginning of the series. He's a demigod. He's the son of Poseidon. And he is accused of stealing Zeus's master bolt, his master lightning bolt. He didn't do it, so he goes on this quest to convince him that he didn't do it and figure out who actually did it. And the cast of characters is really cool. Percy is a sarcastic little shit, and I love it. And Annabeth is really great. She's a really strong character, a wonderful role model for kids. She's the son of Athena, so she's smart. She's so smart. And her and Percy, kind of a spoiler, they're my favorite couple in books of all time. Just, they're my absolute favorite. I adore the two of them and their development together and the way they don't put up with each other's shit. And Annabeth a lot of times puts Percy in his place, and that's really great. But it's cute, but it's adventurous. It's really well written. I like to tell parents when they come into my store to have their kids read this book because it like sneaks in history, and you gotta love a book that educates kids and they don't even realize it. So my most reread book of all time, absolutely. I think I've read this book about 6 times. But yeah, this is way up there. Read this book. I know a lot of you have. If you haven't, you ought to read it. I will be a fangirl about this book with you. I have lots of fangirly items off of Etsy for this series, and there's a reason for that. And that's all of them. I hope you guys stuck through this with me. If you did, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I had a lot of fun doing this. I'm really looking forward to making more videos on here. Just thanks for watching. Look out for more videos from me. I'm going to be posting another one of a library tour very shortly after this video. Subscribe down below, please, if you can. Also, please give me feedback. Again, this is my first video ever, so I would really appreciate some feedback if you don't mind about how I did, what you liked, what you didn't like. And I hope you enjoyed yourself. If you've read any of these books, message me, leave a comment on here about it, message me on Tumblr, find me on Twitter, tell me, any of those things. Happy reading!